is firmly embedded in our organisation. From my role as a CEO, the level of transparency that ionMy reporting features gives me is amazing. I'm able to log in anywhere at any time and actually see a number of things that really provide a level of comfort in particularly areas of high risk in the business. The board receives reports on quality, risk, compliance, and they receive minutes from the governance committee, and over 80% of the governance reports are produced out of ionMy. So I think that's a clear testimony to the value and the use of ionMy in our organisation. We don't use spreadsheets for any data collection. We use ionMy for our complete and only source of truth, particularly when it comes to related to clinical data, to quality, to compliance, to complaints, risks, hazards, and incidents. So no more paper, no more spreadsheets. One of the great features of ionMy is the ability to actually write your own reports. So there is the ability to actually use the generic reports that ionMy have available during implementation, but it's very easy to actually create your own reports. That's something that I have found to be enormously beneficial because the industry keeps moving, the goalposts keep changing, and the information that you need therefore has to modify to the changes. And rather than actually either having to pay for a report or waiting for an external software company to provide you with the report, you're able to produce your reports yourself. As an example, for residential aged care providers, you will be aware that in December 2019, the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission issued information to providers about what documents were required at the new performance assessment visits. ionMy is very easily able to capture all the information required for the quality agency visits, and it's become our one source of truth. One of the elements of information that the Quality and Safety Commission are actually asking us to provide is consumers who've had experienced falls in the previous 3 months. So I'm going to show you how we actually enter an accident incident, which includes obviously a slip, trip and fall. When I show you the drop-down fields that are possible, and it comes to slips, trips and falls, you'll see that we have listed them as witnessed and unwitnessed. So if I just expand those tabs, you can see that staff now have the opportunity to say, okay, this particular resident, was witnessed to fall from a standing position, or was witnessed to roll out of bed, or witnessed to slip out of the chair, or that they didn't witness anything. What that means is that when we produce our falls report, we're able to actually produce a report that actually says not only the number of falls, where they fell, the time they fell, who fell, but how it occurred. And that's been really valuable for these unannounced performance assessment visits, to be able to actually say, look, it's not just raw data. Here is actually some really detailed information that shows you quite clearly that we understand what's happening in our clients in relation to incidents. The ability of ionMy to demonstrate how we comply with the quality standards has been wonderful. We can do an audit and it's put into our audit section, and we then choose to click a link to quality improvement. We can then actually write an outcome statement and also upload the evidence, and also choose which standard it actually complies with. We're then able to actually produce a report either for a committee or for an unannounced visit, or for the managers to actually see their progress on certain projects. And I'm going to show you some reports now that I think are quite powerful from a board's perspective, to actually see what, from a compliance element, how we actually comply with what we need to as an organisation. So we have set up business risk registers, complaints registers, which pull all of the consolidated complaints across all of our businesses. So for governance committees or for board reporting, they don't want each individual, they want a consolidated register. So that's where this happens. I'm going to show you a compliance report. Now, compliance from our board's perspective is everything that's actually legislative responsibility. And I'm going to show you a very narrow date range. What you can actually see is in a 6 months range, we've had a number of areas where we've had to actually change elements of our system in order to demonstrate that we actually comply. So if you look at this therapeutic goods administration as an example, in July we received an amendment to the Poisons Act. It only applied to residential aged care, and as you can see here, it clearly demonstrates the outcome is that the Medical Advisory Committee was advised of the changes, and the amendment was made to the nursing-initiated medication list and the ward stock list. So what the board can see is a summary that we've received something from a legislative or a regulatory body that's required us to make a change, and here is the outcome of the change. Now, if the board wanted to actually see the evidence of that change, I'm going to show you this compliance in more detail. So you actually see this was actually raised in July 2019. It was amendment to regulations of the Poisons Act, and from our decision tree, we have chosen therapeutic goods administration. So here's another important element when setting up decision tree, and you can add to this at any time because of the flexibility of ionMy. We've covered as much as we possibly can, and when we find something that's new, we just keep adding to it. So brief details is we received an amendment to the poisons legislation. There's the outcome, but here's where the power really is. So if I go down here, I will be able to actually download the section of the manual that clearly tells me where the change came from. So the evidence is in one location of what actually commenced the process of us entering into ionMy, a compliance action. The other thing that we're able to do is choose from any of the new standards and then save it. And when I save it, this is what would come up. So we're able to actually show that we are meeting standard 8E, the outcome, and very clearly demonstrating that for corporate governance and generally for the governance standard under standard 8, that complying with that change to legislation around the Poisons Act makes us also comply with our governance responsibilities. So I'm very easily able to log in and find the evidence that we comply with all the things that have been told or documented in the report to the board. Quality, risk, compliance and clinical incident data trend management has really been addressed through the use of ionMy and has really given confidence to our governance committee in relation to the information they're provided and to the actions that are taken and to the outcomes that we've been able to achieve for our clients. One of the things that gives me great comfort as a CEO is the fact that we are no longer reliant on single point sensitivity. And what I mean by that, if a manager leaves or goes on holidays, that the information that they may have contained either in their head or perhaps on a folder in their office is now in ionMy. And the ability to produce the reports quite quickly and quite easily, irrespective of who's on duty at the time of whether it's a complaint or whether it's actually a visit from the quality agency, is really invaluable. I'm going to show you now how the benefit of ionMy, where you can see transparently when information has been requested from one of our staff and their reply is actually all captured in ionMy. So there's a permanent record of the communication between parties in relation to a particular issue. In April last year, we received advice from New South Wales Health that residential aged care clients who pass away as a result of cancer need to be notified to a portal in New South Wales Health. You can see here the email was sent to a particular manager and they were actually asked in the action to complete the registration form for the New South Wales Cancer Notification Portal and please confirm when the login has been set up and completed. You can actually see here that 2 days later, the manager had completed that and in fact uploaded the evidence that the task had actually been completed. It was then closed off. So not only can we actually demonstrate that we've received documents from external providers or external regulatory bodies, we can actually demonstrate internally evidence that we have in fact closed off that complete loop. quality improvements can come from a number of sources. So what it means, it can be a client incident where you've actually improved something for the quality of life of that resident, or in fact the residents in general. It might be an organisational improvement. It might have been something that actually was a suggestion from the board that led to a quality improvement. It might be a result of actually actioning audit gap items that you found, or it might be a feedback or suggestion from staff or residents. So the Quality Register shows a diverse range of sources from which the Quality Register was derived. I always start as I mean to continue. And what I mean by that, particularly around implementation, is understanding the business needs of the organisation when designing how you're going to implement, and also really being clear about the outcomes that you actually want from your software, like ionMy. And that's one of the reasons why I particularly keep referring back to reports. I think it's really important that when you are considering any software, but particularly a database that involves clinical elements, but also compliance and risk and quality elements, that you really think carefully about the reports that you actually want to produce and the outcomes that you actually want from the system. And spend time thinking about that and planning that before you actually implement. The other great thing, and it's particularly important for setup, for implementation, is that as an organisation, what we've chosen to do deliberately is we have chosen corporate services as a business unit. And the reason that we've actually done that is that when we actually enter a corporate quality register new initiative, we actually choose corporate in the field, where the drop-down field where it asks you which department, and what that does is automatically feed into every single business unit that we have. So that one entry goes across all our business units, rather than that business unit having to actually replicate that particular task or that quality improvement. If you're very clear about what you want in your reports, where they're to go to, which committees, or whether it's, a weekly reminder to a manager to follow up on something, it's really important that you've actually factored all that into your thinking during the implementation or prior to implementation, so that you actually get what you expect at the end of the project. And the reason I say that is when you see the power of what the reports can produce, that's only come about because of the thinking that's happened at the front stage of the project. And whilst I've demonstrated that you can actually modify and customise and keep customising as we have done in recent times, it's really important that you get it right from the beginning.